So on number 20 we have the cube root of mn times the cube root of m squared over the cube root of n squared. Alright, let's start on the top. If we want to multiply these, they're both under a cube root, so it just stays under the cube root. When I take m times m squared, we add those exponents together. So that gives me m to the third. And we have an n over the cube root of n squared. Okay, from here, we have to deal with a couple things. We need to reduce our radicals, and we also have to get the radical off the denominator. Currently, on the denominator, we have 2 n's. How many do I need before I can pull it out from the radical? 3. So I need 1 more. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the cube root of n. So on the top we have the cube root of m cubed, now it's n squared, over the cube root of n cubed. Everybody with me still? If you have 3 m's, how many groups of 3 can we form? So 1 m comes out. If I have 2 n's, can I make a group of 3? No, so that one stays underneath. On the bottom, I have 3 n's, so I can make 1 group of 3. I can't cancel those n's because one's under a radical and one isn't. So that is my final answer. Okay. What else?
We do 18.
Yes. There you go.
Oh, mistakes. Thank you.
Problem 18. We have square root of 2 plus 3 times the square root of 2 minus 3. We are multiplying these things, so what do we have to do? FOIL. Okay, when you are multiplying with radicals, numbers under the radicals get multiplied together, and numbers outside the radicals get multiplied together. So first, we have radical 2 times radical 2. So when I do that, I get the square root of 4. Radical 2 times negative 3 is just negative 3 radical 2. 3 times radical 2 is 3 radical 2. And 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Now we start simplifying. What is the square root of 4? Negative 3 radical 2 and positive 3 radical 2. So I have 2 minus 9, which gives me negative 7. What else on here? 21. Okay. We have 2 things that we have to do here. We have to add these together. In order to add or subtract fractions, what do you have to have? Common denominator. We also have to get the radicals off the bottom. So we can do these things in any order. Let's start just by breaking down the radicals that we can and get our common denominator. So the square root of 2, I can't do anything with that. How could I reduce the square root of 8?
Square root of 4 and 2.
Square root of 4 is 2, so we have a 2 radical 2. Okay, I need a common denominator. So if I look, they both have the radical 2. What does the first one need? A 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on top and bottom. Remember, as long as you do the same thing on top and bottom, it's legal. So that gives me 2 over 2 radical 2 plus 3 over 2 radical 2. The denominators match, so we can add them together. So we get 5 over 2 radical 2. Is that my final answer? No. Why? Get rid of that square root. So to do that, we just multiply top and bottom by radical 2. So we get 5 radical 2 over 2 radical 4. Square root of 4 is 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. So 5 radical 2 over 4. Okay. What else on here? Which one? Okay. All right. What's the problem with this one? Radical in the denominator. So we have to get rid of that. We can't just multiply by the square root of p. Why?
Because it would like to.
So if you have that plus or minus, you have to multiply by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply by square root of p minus 2 on top and bottom. So when we do that, we distribute p times the square root of p minus 2p. On the bottom, if we multiply these, we have to FOIL. So square root of p times the square root of p, that's the square root of p squared, minus 2 radical p plus 2 radical p minus 4. So simplify. Square root of p squared is p. Negative 2 p radical p and positive 2 radical p cancel. And so I get my final answer. We can't cancel any p's because the 4 doesn't have one. So that's as far as we can go. Others? Okay. All right, in order to add or subtract with radicals, we need the same thing under our radical. So let's start by reducing those. Can we break down the cube root of 3? No, so that one just stays. Okay, cube root of 24. I need a perfect cube to break that into. When I say perfect cubes, think about like 2 to the third is 8, so 8 is a perfect cube. 3 to the third is 27, so 27 is a perfect cube. Yeah, we could break that into 8 times 3. Cube root of 8 is 2, so we get 2 cube root of 3. 81. I have to break it down, perfect cube. So look at our list. Does anything go into it? So the cube root of 27 is 3. We've got our cube root of Now, all of these have the cube root of 3, so they are like terms. That means we have to come through and we're going to combine the coefficients. Oh, I have a mistake. What did I do? Anybody catch it? It's right here. This was a 2 cube root of 3, but didn't I completely drop my 4 right there? What do I need to do with my 4 and 2? Okay, so that should be an 8. Okay, so 2 plus 8 would be 10, minus 3 gives me 7 cube root of 3 for the final answer there. Alright, so we have negative 4 over radical 3 plus 1. We cannot leave a radical in the denominator. So, what will we have to multiply by to move that?
Conjugate.
Radical 3 minus 1. So when we do this, we distribute. Negative 4 times radical 3 is negative 4 radical 3. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Denominator, we FOIL, so we get radical 9 minus radical 3 plus radical 3 minus 1. Square root of 9 is 3. Negative radical 3 and positive radical 3 cancel, so we have 3 minus 1. Which is 2. There's actually one more step we can do here. What would that be? Divide by 2. So that gives me negative 2 radical 3 plus 2. Guys, I almost forgot. I haven't seen you since you turned in your quizzes, so let me hand those back and we can go over any questions you have on it as well. So we'll do study guide questions and quiz questions. We have them. Trying to get as much practice today as we can. It was last Wednesday, turned it in last Thursday, is that right? Or Friday. Okay, so I will take study guide questions and quiz questions. So if I gave you 2x minus 3 over x minus 1 minus 2x plus 1 over x plus 1. In order to add or subtract fractions, what do we have to have? Common denominator. Right now, we have an x minus 1 and an x plus 1. Those are not the same, so we are going to create our common denominator. So the first one has x minus 1. What does it need?
X plus 1.
So we'll multiply it by x plus 1 on top and bottom. The second one already has the x plus 1. What does it need?
X minus 1.
X minus 1. Okay, so we will FOIL the top, so that's 2x squared plus 2x minus 3x minus 3. I'm just going to leave the bottom as x plus 1, x minus 1. This one, if we FOIL, we get 2x squared minus 2x plus x minus 1 over x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, one thing I want you to watch. If this is a minus, what do I need to do with that?
Change signs.
Change it to a plus and run a negative through this. Alright, now I'm just going to combine like terms. The denominators match, so we will make one big fraction. 2x squared and negative 2x squared cancel each other out. 2x minus 3x is negative 1x. Plus 2x is positive 1x. Minus x is 0, so all those x's cancel. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Can I go ahead and talk about the next one too? I think the addition and subtraction was what I noticed we needed the most help with. So I wanted to work out at least a couple today. Okay. So this is another addition and subtraction, which means we need a common denominator. However, on this one, before we jump in with multiplying, we want to try to make our life as easy as possible. So our first step here is to factor the denominators. We didn't have to do that on the last one because neither one of them broke down at all. But here we can. X minus 3, there's nothing I can do with it. Okay, but this denominator, when can you do the shortcut box method and not draw out the full box? Right, when our x squared term has a coefficient of 1. So if it's just 1x squared, you can do this, otherwise you need the full box. Okay, what two numbers multiply to negative 24 and add to positive 5? Okay. So if I look at this, they both have the x minus 3, so I don't need to do anything special with it. But what am I missing?
X plus 8.
First one needs x plus 8. Okay, so then we can multiply. Distribute your x. So you get x squared plus 8x over your x plus 8, x minus 3. This one we have x plus 1 over x plus 8, x minus 3. Denominators are the same. So we can put them together. Add like terms. X squared, that's my only one of those. 8x and 1x would be a 9x plus 1. And that's my final answer. Yeah, it takes a lot. That's why this process is any others on here? You guys are good with the multiplying and the dividing ones? You factor and cancel what's on top and bottom? When I come around later to collect those, if you do have questions, ask me then. So let's go back to the study guide. What else on the study guide do you need me to talk about so far? Happy to work out whatever we need to if you have questions. Yes.
4.
Number 4. So 8 over 9 to the negative 3 over 2. a negative exponent do? Flips it. So this is 9 over 8 to the positive 3 over 2 power. Okay, let's write that in radical form. If you put your radical, what number goes on the outside? Right, the 2 comes from the denominator. Okay, let's do top and bottom. What's the square root of 9? And then 3 to the third?
27.
On the bottom, can we do the square root of 8?
No.
No. So how about, let's cube that first. You can either do the square root or the cube first. Since the square root doesn't work out perfectly, do 8 to the third power for me. Use your calculator if you need to. You've got that one on your Chromebook you can pull up. 8 to the third power. Okay. Now we have to break that up because we have to get the radical off the bottom. Okay, so let's see if 512 can reduce into something that's a perfect square. I would just start, if I have a large number, I sometimes just start dividing it. You know, it's even, so I can divide it by 2. 512 divided by 2 is 256. Is 256 a perfect square? Yes, it is. So we can break this into 256 and 2. Square root of 256 is 16. Radical 2. Is this okay for my final answer?
No.
No, can't leave radical on the bottom, so multiply by radical 2 on top and bottom. Square root of 4 is 2 times 16 gives me 32. So we have 27 radical 2 over 32. Okay, on the test, guys, I'm not trying to trick you. My study guides are very similar to the types of things I ask on my test. So make sure you're taking the time to work this. You know, the first section on here has all of that radical stuff that we just got done doing. You'll have a section on the test just like that. The next section has 7 and 8, reducing, writing things in lowest terms. Do we need practice with those? Or do you know how to do that? Okay. Have you tried either of those, or can I just make up another problem? Is that okay if I just make up one? All right. Let's say I told you to write let's say 5x squared minus 14x minus 3 over x squared minus 9. And I want you to write that in lowest terms. Okay. Lowest terms means we have to first factor and then see if anything cancels. Can I do the shortcut box method on the top?
No.
No. Why not?
X is not.
Right, because of that 5x squared. So we have to do the full box method. All right, if I multiply those, 5 times -3, so that I need two numbers that multiply to a negative 15, and they have to add to a negative 14. So that would be negative
14.
Yeah, negative 15x and positive 1x. Then we factor So this is 5x and 1, x minus 3. X squared minus 9. How would I factor that? Difference of squares. Remember, difference of squares goes to two identical parentheses, except one's plus and one's minus. So that would go to x plus 3 and x minus 3. You guys know where I got the 3 from the square root of 9? So our goal is if they have anything in common, we have to cancel it. What can I cancel out? So my answer is 5x plus 1 over x plus 3. Let's do another one. Let's say, sorry, I'm trying to make up a problem here. Say I asked you to simplify this. We've done addition, subtraction today, but we've not done the multiplication or division. So if I gave you 3x minus 15 over 4x squared divided by x squared minus 4x minus 5 over 16x squared plus 16x. So I want you to divide those things. Where would you begin? Very good. To divide, we flip and multiply. Oh. So I'm going to change this to times and flip the second one. Okay, now what? Factor. We want to cancel things out. How do I factor at 3x minus 15? Always start with what you can take out. So if I take out my 3, I'm left with x minus 5. 4x squared, not much we can do there. 16x squared plus 16x, what can I take out?
16.
And? That would leave me with x plus, what do you put if you take everything out?
1.
1. Okay. Can I do the shortcut box method on the bottom?
Yes.
Multiply negative 5 and add to negative 4.
Negative 1 and
Now we can cancel what's on top and bottom. So we could drop out an x plus 1. What else? Okay. If you just stop there and multiplied, you multiply straight across. So you get 48x over 4x squared. We can still reduce that, can't we? 48 divided by 4 is 12. Do you have more x's on top or bottom? So it'll end on the bottom. 2 minus 1, you just subtract those exponents, you get x. So 12 over x. So I'm trying to look through your study guide and talk about the different types of problems because I know some of you haven't tried them all yet. We've really done something similar to pretty much everything on the front page. Are there any other problems on here that you want me to work out right now? Actual questions on the study guide that you need to see. We get to like 26, 27, and 28. Those are your exponents, like we were doing on that handout today, and as well as the other class asked about 12 as well, and I told them that's probably an uglier problem than I would put on your test, but the things that you have to do, there's really two main things you have to do in this problem, and I would probably put each of those individually on the test. So I probably wouldn't give you one problem where you had to do all of this, but it does practice a couple different things that you would have to do. Okay, so there's two things going on here. We have a fraction and a fraction, so we have to divide, which we just talked about in the last one, means flip and multiply. We also have the issue on the numerator, the top of this fraction. We have to add those, so that means I'm going to have to get a common denominator. So that's what I meant when I said I might give you this separately. I might give you just the top of the fraction and tell you to get a common denominator and add those. I would give you a problem like that. I would give you a problem that maybe didn't have the 3 and just had a fraction divided by a fraction. Okay, right now this is like a 3 over 1. If I want my denominators to match, what am I going to have to multiply this 3 by? Okay, so I'm going to multiply m squared minus 4 on top and bottom. So that would give me a 3m squared minus 12 over m squared minus 4 plus 2m over m squared minus 4 all over my 5 over m minus 2. So now these have the same denominator, we can add them together. I'm going to put the 2m in the middle just because I like to write it in decreasing order, it doesn't matter. So we did the first half of the problem. We got a common denominator and dealt with the top. Now, if I give you a fraction and a fraction like this, what do you have to do?
Flip the top.
We have to divide. The first one stays the same. Then we change it to times and you flip the bottom one. Okay. With multiplying and dividing, I always tell you to factor first and see what cancels out. If I try to factor the top, you have 3m squared negative 12. So I need two things that multiply to negative 36 and add to positive 2. Are there any numbers? Multiply to 36, it's 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. So it doesn't factor. By the way, what do we call something that doesn't factor? Prime. Okay, so the numerator doesn't factor. I'm just going to leave it as it is. M squared minus 4. What would you turn that into? Times, I have my m minus 2 over 5. So we're multiplying. What cancels out? So we're left with 3m squared plus 2m minus 12 over 5 times the m plus 2. You could distribute that if you wanted, but you don't have to. So we have about 5 minutes left. Your test is tomorrow or Friday for you guys. Your study guide has to be done. Bring it to class. What are you going to do tomorrow during class? Work on your study guide. What if you get confused on a problem? What are you going to do? Email me. Okay? Don't walk in here Friday at 1:20 and say, I don't know how to do this, this, and this. Okay, that's too late. If you get here Friday and you still have questions, what are you going to do? Ask. Come see me before school, an advisory. If you get done and have a few minutes at the end of a class, come on in. Happy to help you guys. You guys have to come in. So I'm going to come around and collect the quizzes back and that homework assignment that you have for me.